Hello, hello. It's Drama Free Monday on a Labor Day. That seems like an oxymoron, doesn't it? Hi, Julie. Good to see you. Yeah, it is. It's Labor Day here in the United States, and it's a holiday. And I wasn't sure whether I would be here or not, but I am here. So it's good to be here. So anyway, come on in. Anybody that's hanging in there watching from the sidelines, come on in and let us know that you are here. Hi, Dorothy. I hope you had a good bank holiday, because I know you said you had a bank holiday today. Here it's a holiday. And yeah, so it's good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Where shall we start? First of all, I just want to tell you that on Saturday is the VIP class at 2 p.m. Eastern, so mark it in your calendar or set an alarm or whatever. Hello, Shu. Hi, Connie. Good to see you. Hi, Peggy. Good to see you. Hi, Terry S. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out here on a holiday. And there may be a lot of background noise that you may hear because we have house guests. And hi, Mickey. And so you may hear some background noise, and that is fine. One of our house guests is not quite 1 year old. And he is quite a corker. And he loves to holler, yell, whatever, because he likes to hear his voice. and it's just, he just loves to just express himself, and you get to hear this beautiful little boy's tones, because he gets really excited when he hears his voice, and he gets very excited about life, and he's very excited about everything, unless he wakes up in a strange place. When he went to sleep one place and wakes up in a different place, yeah, that's not his favorite. But he is adorable. Yeah. Yeah, so it's so good to see you guys. I'm glad you're here. So VIP class is Saturday, and I'll be here Friday. And there's going to be a couple of weeks coming up toward the end of this month, because we are now in September, believe it or not, that I'm going to be gone. But I will give you plenty of notice before then. Debbie Boring, hello. Boy, I haven't seen your name in a long time in the chat. I'm so glad you're here. I know you've been busy, so I'm glad to see your name in the chat. I hope you're doing okay. Hope you're doing really okay. So it's like I said, it's a holiday here in the United States, bank holiday in the UK. I don't know if anybody else has a holiday, but anyway, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here with me. I'm glad I'm here with you. So VIP class is happening, and then also I'm still kind of sounding the get ready for this, we're going to do this, and I think we can do it in one evening, in one time, and I'm not sure if I'll do it in the Monday evening or the Friday afternoon stream. I'm not sure which, but we're going to do this little pincushion in a spoon, an antique spoon. If you want your own kit, you can order one from Muppin.com. It's a vintage spoon pincushion. It comes with a piece of fabric. It comes with a little embellishment. You can see the choices there, the ones that she suggests. It's Muppin Sewing Emporium, but you go to Muppin, Muppin.com, and you can get your own. It also does come with an antique spoon. And they're all different antique spoons. So you may have one this size, you may have one that's a teaspoon size, various sizes. I think it would be fun to do one in a baby spoon also. But anyway, there you go. So if you want to do it, Oh, you're still here. Good. Good, Debbie. That is good. That is so good that you're still here. Yes. So anyway, if you want to do that, you can get your own kit, or you can, if you have a spoon, or a spoon that was, sometimes you end up with that one weird spoon. This will give you something you can do with it. I found another spoon, and so this is considerably different in size. So teaspoon versus, I don't know if this is a soup spoon or a serving spoon. And this one looks to be newer, and I'm not sure whether this is, it looks like it's a silver plate or something. I don't know. I'm going to use it anyway. So there you go. If you want to do that we will try to get that done. Work it into what I'm going to do here coming up pretty soon. Of course, there'll be a recording, and so you'll be able to, if you're not here, you'll be able to watch the recording and catch up that way too. So that's coming up. All right, I did have something I wanted to read to you because I thought this was really cool. From a magazine. Can I share how I divide my time projects throughout your week, month? I never have enough time. Well, here's the thing, Julie. Here's the thing. We all have 24 hours in a day. And I know that seems so simplistic to say that, but we do. And so it's, I've wondered the same thing about some people that seem to get so much more done than I do. I'm not as prolific creatively as I have been, just simply because I'm still trying to get my feet planted in a new space. And after moving, and so I'm still trying to get all that stuff done. So when you move into a different place, it takes time to figure out where the light switches are, if you know what I mean. And so I'm still getting that adjustment phase. And what I've done creatively is what I had to do. Before that, when I was dealing with, and the last thing that really was going on at my house, was dealing with my husband and going through that dementia process with him. And then after he passed away, then I'm trying to deal with the aftermath and all the stuff that goes with that. So I was not very creative the whole year that I was dealing with the last part of his life. I wasn't real creative right after that, because then I was just kind of stuck in the mud. And so, it takes a while to get your momentum back again. When you stall out creatively, it takes a little while to kind of get going again. So I'm not sure that I can really give you an adequate answer as to how I divide up time. The biggest thing is I'm creative when I feel like it. That's the simplest answer. And if I don't feel like it, and the hardest thing for me to do is to be creative on command. That's hard for me. That is very hard for me. And sometimes I get stalled out, and I'm just, especially when I have a class coming up, sometimes that is like pulling teeth to get myself, to get momentum, to get that class developed. And so I try to have myself in a space where I want to do something creatively. And if I'm not there, then the best thing for me that I've found so far is to go through my stuff. Another thing, like go through things and organize them, or clean things up, or throw things out, or just go through the unfinished projects, of which I have a lot. Because I never quite seem to get, I do get a lot of them finished, but I have an awful lot that are unfinished and that are in stages, because I often do things, prepare classes so that I have things done in stages. So then I end up with this backlog of stuff that could be finished. It's pretty neat, but I don't get them all done. So the other thing I do that spurs me on is to go through magazines or articles that I've saved. Of course, videos are an inspiration. taking a class, an online class, inspires me. So a lot of times, if one thing doesn't work, I'll try another thing. And so, and then I'll get an inspiration, or I'll get an idea, and very often the idea takes off in a different direction. So I don't know if any of that helps, but that's kind of how it is. I just do, you do the best you can. That's all. Do the best you can. So I have, speaking of articles, I found this article, which was in an issue of Somerset Studio back in 2020. And it's by Michelle Ward, who is a really interesting creator. And this was, I'm just going to read you this little paragraph. I will not bore you with all of the whole article. I just want to read you this paragraph. But the name of this article is I'm a Believer. Oh, you're welcome. Absolutely. I'm a Believer by Michelle Ward. And so that caught my attention right away, because I'm like, this is not the kind of magazine I would expect to see that title of an article. And I didn't know what the article would be about. So here, anyway, I'm going to read it to you. If you're from my generation, which before I go any further, it's clear that I'm not from her generation. I am before her generation by some little bit. If you're from my generation, then the title above may conjure up an old favorite by the Monkees. So it's I'm a Believer. That's the title of the article. Now, I did know the Monkees. I did know them. If you're a bit younger, you may hear the tune playing in your head performed by Smash Mouth. Okay, that's where she lost me because, yeah, that's not my generation. While I love the song, the phrase has come to mean so much more to me. It is a mantra I share with my daughter, and it has become a ritual for annual gift giving and art making. Let me explain. Several years ago, I was in a self-portrait collaborative round robin. Each month, we had to create a page in a comrade's journal, and in the end, we had a book filled with art by all the participants. For one entry, I was planning on running strips of text that were descriptors of me, lines of repetitive words such as wife, mother, daughter, sister, artist, etc. When I asked my daughter Fallon to take a look at the document to see if she could think of anything else to add, she said, Believer. It took my breath away. She didn't say cook, carpooler, shopper. She said, Believer. I know she didn't necessarily mean it in the religious way, although I am that kind of believer. Her explanation indicated that it's my attitude. She said, I believe in people, I believe in friendships, I believe in love, and I believe anyone can make what they want of themselves. She thinks I encourage and inspire. I am filled with gratitude that my daughter thinks of me that way, and I have been trying to live up to that ever since. So I thought that was a really great paragraph that I wanted to share with you. There's a lot more to the article, but I thought that was such a great descriptor by her daughter. And there's some things you don't know. And you won't know unless you ask. One is what your kids think of you. Because you have no idea what they think of you. And I can almost promise you it's different than you in your imagination think that they think of you. And you also don't know what your kids think about the way that you raised them. And that's a scary thing to ask them sometimes, but sometimes it's very enlightening. Okay, so there you go. Another thing I wanted to show you that I don't know if I'm going to get this done this year. I really need to tie into it soon if I'm going to, but I thought I would show this to you and see if any of you have any interest in watching me do this project, if I can get it together. And this is something I found in all of my organizing, cleaning up, moving stuff. And it's Fabric Picture Books by Gwen Marston. And so I thought I would show it to you. I don't know if you remember when you guys were here probably 2 months ago or so, I showed you a fabric book that my mom had made for my son. And she did it very simply. You can do them in a very simple way, or you can go to the other extreme in this kind of way that I'm going to show you in this book. She did duck cloth or canvas pages, and then she cut out magazine pictures and she glued them in to the pages of the book that she made. And she did it for my son when he was really small, and he just loved that book, loved it. And I still have it. Every once in a while I lose it, and then I find it again. But anyway, so you can do very simple books for children. And if you do things with magazine images that are glued on pages of fabric, you might have to watch your kids with them a little bit, but I don't know, we never had too much trouble with them. So there's this one now that I thought I would show you. Fabric Picture Books. And so this is by Gwen Marston. This is published by American Quilter Society out of Paducah, Kentucky. And this was done in 2002. So it's an old book. And this was dedicated to her first grandchild. And so it has a lot of different suggestions and ideas. You can make things very complex. You can piece the different elements. Another simple way to do it is to go get fabrics that are the name just flew out of my head. Yes. Fabrics like this that have, or like this. You can get quilting fabric that have, very specific elements on them. I can't, there's a word and it's just gone from my head for the moment. And add some fabrics to around the motifs, and turn those into a picture book. I think these are adorable. Look at that baby. I know, right? This is like a throwback to vintage books. Actually, you know you're vintage when you can look at those books and go, yeah, I read those in school. Like the Dick and Jane books, Dick, Jane, and Sally, and Spot, and was it Puff? Anyway, every so often somebody will bring out a line of fabric that has those novelty prints. That's the word I was thinking of. This one is more complex. This one has embroidery and applique, so you can do that. These are applique, more novelty fabrics. So different kinds of things, some of them are themed, like alphabets or fishing or animals. Animals are always a big hit with kids. Hey, Linda. Graphics, pictorial fabrics, but novelty was the word I was thinking of, trying to come up with. But those are all descriptive of the same idea. So there's lots of fabrics out there that you could do and make a fabric book. Fabric books are really great for little kids, but it's just a different form of journaling. Here's the Dick and Jane. It's just a different form of journaling. So if any of you are interested in this, let me know in the chat if you would want to see me do some of this. You can also print photographs on paper. So you could take a photograph like this. You could actually print it on printer fabric. I don't know if I just said paper, but you can do it on printer fabric. These kinds of books that I would do are not meant to be laundered. So it's invariably a question that people want to ask is about, well, what if you have to launder it? Well, you know what I think? If you have to launder it, do it carefully and do it by hand. Hey, Rhonda. Do it by hand. That's what I would say to that. It's like anything that you make, any fabric art that I make, I don't intend for any of it to ever be washed in any way. Hand or machine or anything else. I don't intend to launder it. I just intend to enjoy it, give it away, use it. If it gets ruined, like, you guys remember Chance and Charlie, my cats, the sponsors of the show. Charlie was famous for getting on a rip where he had a bad stomach from time to time, and when he would, it was like nonstop. I would just stop doing whatever I was doing because I just needed to take care of the cat, because it was going to go till it was over, and so I had to just follow him around and clean up after him. And I had a big nice piece of jelly plate printed fabric. It was black with metallic paints on it, and I also had another piece of it that was regular muslin fabric that had regular paints, and I had done all this nice jelly plate printing on it. And yeah, I thought it was safe, but it was not, and he puked on all of it. I didn't have a choice but to wash it. And if you think that something is absolutely washable, 100% that you make, well, just test it out. Because I found out that I thought acrylic paint was 100% safe, and a lot of that acrylic paint washed out. Anyway, yes, the nature of that. So just be careful. Yeah, Rhonda says she follows her old dog with a pee pad. I totally understand that. I think we spent quite a bit of money on those kinds of things and waterproof blankets. And all I can say is I'm so grateful that those things are available, because it made my life a lot easier. A lot easier. Okay, so that's enough of that. So what we're going to do tonight, and then I'll tell you some stuff while we're doing it, tell you about what has been going on around here, is a couple weeks ago, maybe a week ago, I've lost track of when we did this, I used some watercolor cards and, whoops, wrong remote, just a second, here we go, get the right one, you're in good shape. And I used some watercolor greeting cards that were scored and ready to fold, and then I used bleeding tissue paper, which is a specific kind of tissue paper. I ordered it online, and I used that to make the backgrounds for these various cards. So if you want to see how to do that, just look back maybe a week. It might have been a week ago tonight. That might have been when I did it. So anyway, I ended up putting in. Yeah, exactly. I hear you, Rhonda. I do. Dorothy said it's nice to have her nice quiet village back today. Oh, you've had World War II Spitfires, hurricanes, and all sorts flying over at the actual show. They dressed up in the 1940s clothing and such. How interesting. And you remember it for real. I bet you do. Yeah. It must be nice to get, it's nice to remember. It's also nice to kind of get back to normal, whatever that is. So back to this, we did bleeding tissue paper. For this, I took big pieces, cut it in strips or squares, and I put water on the watercolor card, and then put the fabric or the paper, the bleeding tissue paper that's highly pigmented, very colorful, on the cards, and let those dry. All right, this piece right here I cut out of one of the cards because I didn't like what the rest of what I had done on it. This is many weeks before that, and so I thought, well, I'll just use that flower and added onto the background. So this is a separate piece from this background. So this piece went down to here. Okay, that's how far that went. And then I stamped this. This was actually a border stamp. I stamped that and then embellished it to see if I could make those things go together. This is also a stamp. This is from, these are all the stamps I used in these cards are from Diane Reevely from Ranger. Diane Reevely is the artist, designer. Ranger is the creator of the stamps, I believe. That may not be 100% right, but I think that's what it is. And then this was one of the sentiments that I used from one of the Tim Holtz small talk or something like that, snarky sayings or whatever. This says, "Some days I rely heavily on coffee and my ability to ignore reality." That is so true. That is so true. Anyway, I was happy with how that one turned out. And the coloring that I did on all of these is from Charvin, from Jerry's Artorama, the Charvin water-soluble pastels. And they really are pretty permanent once they dry. I mean, I've done nothing to these. And you see that I'm not getting much of any transfer coming off from those. So this is pastel. You can do something similar with just regular pastels, which is a fancy name for chalk, like kids chalk. Pastel you can get at Walmart or any hobby store, or it doesn't have to be kids. It could be just pastel sticks that you get at the hobby store, or you order or whatever. And they will all wet, become soluble with a wet paintbrush and water, and you can paint, or you could draw some, add some of the pigment to your card, and then wet it with a paintbrush. The ones that are not anything other than the water-soluble ones by Charvin, Charvin, you're going to have to fix in some way with a workable fixative. At the very least, you'll have to spray them with hairspray. You got to spray them with something that keeps that pigment and that chalk attached to the paper. The Charvin ones are meant to be like this, that you can use on paper. Okay, so there's that one. This was another one that we did. These were 3 houses that Diane, 3 separate stamps that she had, and then I just added some little bushy kinds of things, and again painted them using the water-soluble pastel sticks and a brush. This one, actually, I could go back, and you can always see things that you'd like to do differently. And so I could go back and make the outline around the houses a little stronger. I added some things, some different lines, and added a couple windows and stuff like that. But again, it doesn't seem to come off much at all. It doesn't shed much at all on your fingers. And then this is another little sentiment that I added: live simply, give generously. All right, so those are the ones that we did on Friday. And so this, I thought we would play a little bit more with these. So I went ahead and did the stamping on these. These, again, all of these are from Diane Reevely stamps. These are all border stamps. And the strips of paper were put on here in a diagonal pattern. And so this is, I just kind of went somewhere in the vicinity of where I saw a color change, but not necessarily right where the color change was, and just stamped. And so I thought, well, we'll play with, adding some color or something to these here tonight with something other than the Charvin pastel, water-soluble pastels. I thought we might use Inktense pencils tonight for something a little bit different. This is a stamp right here. It goes through this flower. And this was about the size of an ATC card. So that's the stamp. Then I turned it upside down and I stamped it again so you can see the same stamp, but on a diagonal. It gives it kind of a nice design. I had a hard time getting, for whatever reason, getting this to stamp a really good complete image. So I went back and with a permanent pen like one of these, this happens to be King Art, but you can use whatever permanent pen in black, and just filled in the parts that weren't there. Okay, so there's that one. This was one border stamp, actually two. This is one. So this is one border stamp, and I didn't even do a great job stamping it. You know, right here you can, if you know the stamp, you know it doesn't look like that. So I didn't do a great job. This stamp is this, it goes from here to here. This part is one stamp, okay? So this is the whole stamp. Then the next, I moved over and you can see this heart repeated, and put a piece of paper up here off the card. So when I inked it, I moved it up and stamped it again. Then I moved it up and stamped it again. And then over here, you can see, if you will notice, this one is not repeated in between these two. I wanted this to be a consistent heart image coming up. So I didn't have enough room to do both stamps. So what I did is I took the stamp, let me show you. Okay, here's the stamp right here, this one. And the part of this image that I wanted was this part, but this is together. Okay, so I could have cut them apart, which I'm not going to do. Or the other thing, which is what I did do, is I went ahead and just inked it with the whole thing. I inked the whole thing with a black ink pad. And then I took a piece of blue painter's tape and I put it right down on top of the part of the stamp that I didn't want. So and you have to be careful when you do that, because I did want this part but not that. So I put the painter's tape down on top of that and went ahead and stamped it, and that worked. And so it allowed me to get what I wanted, which was just this part of that stamp. So sometimes you have to be a little bit thoughtful in order to get what you want. Rhonda says that's what she would have done. Good. This was a border stamp, and so I just stamped it, and stamped whatever I needed to fill it out. So there's that one. This is that one that, if you recall, was one I had totally overworked it. Like, I mean, I had some white space that just naturally happened. I didn't like it, so I put some more pieces of bleeding tissue on it. It muddied the colors up. I was real unhappy with it. And so I took two different stamps from Diane's, from these same stamps, sets of stamps, and I stamped her head first, and then I stamped her body, and her neck was not this long, so, but I wanted her face in that part right there. So that's why I stamped the head first. I stamped the body, and then I just extended her neck and did a little bit more work with the pen, just because it didn't stamp as darkly as I intended for it to. And then this is one of those border stamps. So I stamped it, and then because this was big enough, this image was big enough, this one, the pieces were big enough that I could control where I put the ink. So I only inked it so far and stamped it. And then I think I put a piece of paper over this so it wouldn't stamp on top of her. So there's that one. So honestly, it's going to turn out to be an okay card. And there's plenty of room here to add a word, a sentiment, a quote, whatever I want to do. So I'm actually happy that this, that happened, because now I can do something with it. This one is the one that this can go this way or this way, it doesn't matter. This is the one that I took pieces of the tissue paper, the bleeding tissue paper, and I crunched them up. I put a lot of water on the card because this is watercolor paper, and then I just put the crunched up paper in there and kind of smashed it down. It gets all over your hands, so you do want to be aware of that. I crunched it and smashed it down in the water until it was dry. I left all of that on there, so you end up with all these interesting shapes. So what I did for this one, this is not a stamp. This is using one of the pens, the King Art pens or any other permanent pen, and I just found the flowers. These are all flowers that I saw within the background. And I started out down here, and I was actually doing them in pencil first, but it was pretty hard to see the pencil lines. So after I kind of got my bearings down here with these flowers, then I just decided to go for broke, and I just started using the pen and finding the flowers. And if you've never tried that, I highly recommend that you do, because it's a lot of fun. And if it doesn't work, so what? Throw it away. Cut it up. You can cut it into pieces. And you can still use this. And, if you decide that you don't like what you got here, well, turn it inside out, open the card, and you can do the same thing in here. The texture is different, but you can still use this and do the same treatment as here. Nobody said you have to use the right side of the card, and you also have the back side of the card. So you've got 4 chances. You got 4 chances to get it to be something that you like. Okay? All right. Thank you, Rhonda. So always look at what's there, look at what's not there, and then you come back and lightly, don't put a lot of pressure on the eraser when you do this. Just, if you've used a pencil, come back and lightly erase your pencil lines, unless that doesn't bother you, and because sometimes some people like to leave those pencil lines in. I tend to be one that likes to get rid of them. I don't know why. It's just one of those. It's like me leaving ragtag stuff hanging off the edges of my journal pages and stuff. I can't stand that either. I have a touch of OCD. It's not full-blown OCD. It's a little tiny touch, of wanting things to line up, or case in point, if something's supposed to be on the straight, whether it's in a room or a page or a book or a piece of artwork, a picture on the wall, if it's supposed to be straight, I want it straight. If it's purposely cattywampus, that's okay. But if it's just gone half, if one side of something is a 32nd of an inch off, my eye will pick it up, and I'm like, nope, gotta take that nail out and put that nail in again. So yeah, I got a few little quirks, people, just a few. Just a few. All right, so how about I don't know which one you want. Let's do the 2 flower cards. We'll see how that goes tonight. Okay, we'll see what we can do with those. Let's start with this one. And what I'm going to use is Inktense pencils. Inktense pencils, if you're not familiar with them, you can also use Inktense blocks. You can paint from the Inktense blocks. I do have the blocks, but I have more pencils, more colors in the pencils. Some of them are already in here. They are ink in a pencil form, and once the ink is activated with water, they dry permanently, pretty permanently. If you're going to do them, if you're going to use them on a non-porous surface, or something that you have sealed well with, like matte medium or something, you know, some kind of medium that you've sealed the paper surface with, and then you come in and use the Inktense pencils, my experience is that they may or may not reactivate afterwards. I think you have a better experience if you will use a more porous background, use the Inktense pencils on them, activate all of the ink, let them dry well. My experience is they're pretty permanent. Okay. All right. If you have any questions, be sure you put them in all caps. Okay. All right. Let's go. I tend not to sharpen my pencils very sharply. Some people do. I don't. I find that if I have a softer point on the pencil, a duller point, in other words, I find that I like it better. And I find with the Inktense pencils, I go back to the same ones over and over. I am a proponent of buying the most you can for the money that you want to spend. The exception to that rule is the big set of the Inktense pencils. I don't think you need the full set. Personally, I think if you had the 48 set, that would be adequate. I wouldn't go less than 48 colors personally, but I don't think you need to go to the 72 or whatever the number is. Oh, the sidewalk crack. Yeah, the sidewalk crack art. I love the sidewalk crack art. I really do. I don't know where my book is that I had that in. It's in one of my journals, or one of the books that I was doing. Where is that? Anyway, if I find it, I'll show it to you. Yeah, we should do that. That's fine. That comes from Carla Sondheim. I don't know if she's still doing that, sending out the pictures of the sidewalk cracks. And it's the same kind of thing as this. You look at what's there, and you look at the crack, and you can, if you don't see anything at first, turn it different directions, look at it, and then make whatever it is, you know, pick out what you see there. You can always add to it, but let that unusual shape that you see make your imagination work. It's a really good stretch for you. So, yeah, it's fun. We should do that. We should do that. Thank you for the suggestion. I'll try to do that. Okay, this is similar to that concept. Okay, this is very similar to that sidewalk crack type thing. You're just looking at what's there and picking things out. I almost always see flower shapes or some sort of botanical something, leaves, flowers, you know. It's not at all unusual. I know you can't imagine this, but it's not at all unusual for me to see a mandala hidden within the artwork also. All right, let's do this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find something, go through my color stash here, and I'm going to see what I can find that will go with this, but that is a different color. That's kind of a flat orange. And so let's see, and I do have all of the pencils swatched out here. It's a very good idea to swatch them out. And let's see. Let's go with Chili Red, and that is 0500. I do have these in order. And I do take the time, so this is Chili Red. 0500. I do take the time to put them, I took them out of the tin and I have them in one of these cases, and I do take the time to put them in order, numerical order, because I just find it easier to find the colors and stuff. So, all right, so here's what we're going to do is I'm going to take this, and I'm not going to put much pigment in here, but I'm going to put some pigment in these petals around the center, and I'm not pressing hard, and I'm not trying to go in a line. Okay, I'm not trying to go in a line. You may or may not be able to see that. Let's try this one. All right, where is, okay. Let's try this camera. I think you might see it a little bit better. And let me put it on a tilt. And I bet if I work hard enough, we'll get this to where you can really see what I'm doing. I think I got it this time. All right. So I'm going to just turn this. I have this on an angle, so the card may not appear to be a true rectangle because I've got it tilted, and sometimes that plays up your perspective a little bit. Anyway, so I'm putting a little bit of my pigment there. Whoop! Oh, that was really too close. Sorry, guys. Every once in a while, I get a little trigger happy with my finger there. All right, so you can see real well what I've done right here. All right, let me get a different color now, and we'll do this flower. We'll do these 3 orange flowers, not with the same color. And let's do one with fuchsia. I probably have that one out because I love fuchsia. Yeah, 0700. So this is fuchsia. Let's use the fuchsia one on this flower. We're going to do the same thing. So light application of color. You can always add more, but coming back and trying to get that, control that pigment after you've got too much is that's a tough one. So color around the center, and then where one petal overlaps the other, I'm going to add some of the fuchsia on the part that's underneath. So if you can see, this petal looks to me like that one's on top and this one's underneath. So I put the shading color, the darker color, on the petal that's underneath. Same thing here. So this looks to me like it's underneath that. And then same thing on this one. I just take it petal by petal, but not a lot. I can always come back and add more. But I'm not going to put too much on to begin with. Then if you have a little dip in a petal, you can add a little bit out here with the part that is kind of, don't do it to every single one, but add a little bit of pigment, shading color there if you want to. Don't have to. It's easier to do that on the petals, on the flowers that are bigger. Like this little guy back here, there is no point in trying to do anything on this flower. It's too small. Okay? All right. So we kind of got that going on. Linda McAllister. Hello, Linda McAllister. So good to see you. I'm glad you're here. I'm sorry you can't sleep or whatever your reason is for being here, but welcome, welcome. All right, and let's do one more color here, and let's use mid vermilion 0310. Let's see if I can put my hand on that. I know my hand's in your way. Sorry. Okay. So this is vermilion, so let's use this. So we'll have different colors on each one of these flowers. Linda McAllister and I go way back to when I started on YouTube. She was one of my first people that started watching me on YouTube. And the reason I always greet her with such a screwball greeting is I was trying to get my bearings on YouTube because it was such a switch from Ustream, which is where I was streaming before. And so I said, if I mispronounce your name, spell it phonetically. And so Linda McAllister, being the smart aleck that she is, wrote L-I, spaced it out. And then at the end, she went D-A-A-A-A-A. So that's why I call her Linda McAllister. Okay. So there is what we have with the shading. Okay? Am I right, Linda? Am I right? I don't think I'm lying. All right. And so what I have is some water brushes. There's, and the reason I have 3 water brushes out here, they're all from Pentel, is because sometimes one of them gets clogged up. So I just, rather than take time and mess around with it, I just go for another one. They are different sizes of brush tips. Let me show you. They come in different brush tips. See the difference? So if you want, it's the same rule as anything else. If you're in a small area, use a smaller brush. You just put the water in these. The reason I like these is they're flat. Sorry, I am zoomed in, so I'm off my target. They're flat, and so if you set them on a surface that's slanted a little bit, they're not going to roll away from you. If you set them on a slant, this is really slanted. This could eventually roll because this is slanted. But anyway, you get the drift. I normally start them on my hand because I can see how much water is coming out, and you squeeze the brush, squeeze right here to get the water started. This one is being a little ornery. There we go. All right, I don't know if you can see the water. There you go. See the water there? All right, once I've got it working, then I'm just going to come up here and I'm going to activate this Inktense pencil pigment. I like using the water brush with these on a small area like this. I find it controllable and I like that. So once that is activated, then I just work my way around and wet those pigments, those areas where I have added the color. I'm trying not to totally paint the entire petal. I'm trying not to turn it from orange to one shade of red. And you'll get, once you get going on this and you get the feel for it, every time I come back and use these, I have to reacquaint myself with the pencils. Once you get going, you get the hang of it. If you start moving too much, if the pigment is moving a little too much, then I wipe some of the water off on my paper towel, or Kleenex tissue works really well too, or a napkin, the backing of a napkin. You can take away some of that water. But it will smooth out that pigment, and then let it sit and dry, and then if you want to add more color, then come back later and add more color. But don't go in and add more pigment into the water, because that tends to get out of control pretty quick. Yeah, intense or Inktense, that's right. Alright, and all you have to do to clean the pigment out of your brush is just simply squeeze some water. This brush is one of those that's not working super well. Let me switch to another one. Let's see if this is a brand new one. Let's see how this one. Oh, then you see you got a little too much. Some of them you have to be careful that you don't squeeze too much. All right, you see how much more water is coming out. Let's see what that does. I'm going to dab a little bit off. Let's go for the next petal here and see how this works. This one, the bristles were splayed. You see how they're not forming, see how they're split? That irritates me, so we'll see how long I can stand it. Sometimes, sometimes life is hard when you get irritated with your art supplies. And you kind of have to, you'll find your favorite brushes, your favorite water brush, your favorite brand, your favorite exact, these are all the same brand, and I will find the one that I'm liking tonight. And when that happens, then you're in good shape. And if I need to, I'll come back and add a little bit more pigment. These are going to probably need a second coat just to get the color that I want. Alright, let's work on this one. It just takes a minute to, there we go. It takes a minute to get your feel, the feel for the product that you're using. And to be really safe, you might want to skip a petal, let that one dry, and come over here and work on this one. And you'll develop the instinct for when to dab off on the paper towel, which I have right here. You can see the little marks where I've dabbed off. You will get to the feel of when you've got too much water, like that's a little too much. So I just dab it on the paper towel just to get rid of the excess ink, because I don't want to turn it all the same color. I still want some variety. Light, medium, and dark is what my goal is. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do this brush because the split is not good. Alright, we'll do this flower, and then I'm going to switch. I'm going to find a brush I like here in a minute. Most of these brushes have got some age on them. And you'll know that they're dry. First of all, the gloss from the water, the shine from the water will go away. So that's step one. Step two of knowing that it's dry is you'll be able to touch it with your finger and it no longer feels cool to the touch. Then that's, you know, it's dry. All right. So you remember I did not put a lot of the pencil on there, but you can still see that there is some different gradation of color there. While that's drying, let's put in the centers, and I'm just going to pick a nice brown and put the center in with a brown. So let's try this one. What is this? Burnt orange. Let's try the burnt orange. Ooh, that one really does need to be sharpened a little bit. So I'm going to put a little bit of this burnt orange in the center. I'm not going to do the whole thing. Just some of it. And then let me try my other brush and see if this one works better. Okay, let's see about this brush. So I've put in some burnt orange in each one of the centers, and that's not dark enough, so I'm gonna, before I go any further, I'm just gonna come to get another brown that is darker so you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, let's try again. Okay, that's better. It's all about the contrast between light and dark and medium. So you can see the centers there a little bit better. And I'm going to come back into these flowers again and add a little bit more color into them. And I may not get the right color, the exact same color as I did the first time, but it's okay. So I'm just going to put a little bit more color in here. And then I'm going to switch to another one, put a little bit more in. And again, once you get your rhythm on any of this kind of art making, mark making, whatever you want to call it, once you start and you kind of get the feel for it, then you'll pick up speed, okay? But this is, it's like some other things. The second coat is going to add more depth and dimension. And that's what I happen to like. I like the depth. I like the adding, the achievement of getting things to look not flat. Okay. You can touch the tip of the brush to the tip, or the brush to the tip of the pencil also. Yes, good point. I typically find that I have a little bit more control if I put the pigment on and then activate it, but you know, we all get used to our own technique, our own way of making something work, and you should always go with whatever works best for you. Sometimes people will tell you, or companies will tell you, don't put the wet brush on the pencil because the water, sometimes the water floods down into the wood and may swell the wood of the pencil. I don't know if that's actually the true, I don't know if that's a true statement. I don't know why they would say it if it weren't, but I don't think you get, especially with a water brush, I don't think that you get that much water going down into those pencils. So okay, so we're gonna just kind of dance around this a little bit and activate that second coat of color. You can go to a darker color if you want. The rule of thumb is if you're going to use a darker color, don't put on as much as you did the first time. Put on a little bit less pigment, a little bit less area if you go darker. Okay, all right, so you can see that this is wet. Let me catch the light so you'll see. There, see the light shining on it? That's wet. So you're not going to know what it really looks like until that water dries out. All right, so let's go to the next flower. This big honkin' flower right here. And let's go to, let's see, I need a dark. In order to show you, give you more a quicker transition in the color, I'm going to go to a really dark red. So we'll see how this does. Okay, so let's see how this works. So this color is called Shiraz, and this is a strong, and some of these pigments are stronger than others, and so you have to go a little bit, when in doubt, don't go too deep, don't go too much pigment too quickly. Okay, again, I'm going to put color where I think one petal is going under another one. So this petal right here I think is under this one, so I've added the pigment right along this, on the one that's underneath. And this petal right here is totally underneath, so I'm going to put some in the center and then up both sides this time. When you put the pigment on, keep it soft, especially the inner edge of it. Keep it soft. Don't do things in straight lines and sharp corners. You will not be happy if you do that. Light and shadow and color typically does not, unless you are in a bright light, typically does not turn straight lines, harsh corners. It bends in a soft line. You can have a shadow that comes around right here, but see how this is curved and soft on the inner edge? It's not a straight line. It's not a straight corner, not a harsh corner. Okay, let's keep going. So, have any of you ever been to a shrimp boil or a seafood boil? And I don't even remember if I told you that we were having this gathering here, but we did. We had one yesterday. Have you ever been to one or had one? We did, and Elton's daughter did the research and she did the planning, which was great. We had it here at the house, and we just kept inviting people, and so we quickly lost track of how many people were actually coming. And for any of you that have ever done something like this, it's not a good idea to lose track because you got to buy the seafood, and so you really got to figure out approximately how many people you're going to have, so you know approximately how much food to come bring into the space that you're going to boil, right? Linda says, no seafood for me. That's not for you. I guess I did tell you, because I remember Rhonda saying no. I do remember Rhonda saying that now. So I did tell you we were having it. It turned out to be a really good experience. And you know, my thing is, if you invite people that don't like seafood, they're just not going to come. And that's, you know, or they're going to say, oh no, sorry, but we're busy. You know. So we had shrimp and lobster, and what else do we have? She bought some crawdads, also known as crayfish. Those are not my favorite. They're too much, or mud bugs, another name for them. They're too much work for what you get out of them. Yeah, not my thing. But you know, they really were pretty. They turned absolutely bright red, and so they did add a lot. I mean, you, if you didn't like seafood, you really at least have to appreciate the colors involved, because it was a really nice assortment of colors. We also had sausage and potatoes, and let's see, it needs a little erasing there. Somewhere I had a pencil with an eraser on it. Alright, we'll use this one. Oh no, let's use this. This is a white. White eraser is always better to use on something like this, rather than the pink erasers on the pencils, the end of the pencil. What color was I just... Okay. We had sausage and little tiny potatoes and corn on the cob. Let's see, did we have anything else? And then the broth that you make to cook it all in. Okay. All right, you guys. Elton's son ordered the pot, the kit, and it came with a big pot and the stand that the pot fits on, and the basket that goes in the pot, and it's a propane tank that heats the water, and then you season the water, and then you cook things in layers. The thing is, everybody needed to bake his or her own pancake in my kitchen. Jinx, pancakes? What? Wait. You had fun with a pancake party. Well, that would be fun. Pancake party. The thing is, everybody needed to bake his or her own pancake in my kitchen. And we do a lot of toppings here, so that's fun. I bet that was fun. But I bet you needed space. I bet you needed space to do that. So, yeah. Okay, this is pretty much dry up here, so it's safe to put my hand up there. All right, let's get the water going again. There we go. So we ate the night before, so Saturday night. It's time to get the pot out, and I thought it just probably came out of the box and that was that. No. You had to assemble the part, all the stuff. You had to put the frame together, and the it all had to kind of be put together. Mostly the frame had to be put together. And so there were several people involved in that. And my instant question was, I know you can't imagine this, but my instant question was, did you look it up on YouTube to see if you could find somebody who'd put it together? That is my question, because for some unknown reason, the instructions that come with most of these things are written by people that are probably written by AI they don't speak English. You know? Yeah. Rhonda, this would not be your thing. Yeah, you should stay away from this. So, of course, nobody looked it up on YouTube. And so a little while later, when things got, some of the directions got a little confusing, I got a text. In the same house where I live, I got a text or a phone call from Elton. And he said, "Could you come here?" And I'm like, "Yep." And he said, "Would you look this up on YouTube?" I'm not sure we found something that was actually very helpful, but I did get a little bit of a chuckle out of that the question that I asked in the beginning that was kind of poo-pooed ended up being the thing that someone wanted me to look up. I think that's pretty funny myself. Tell me you guys don't think that's funny. I bet you do. And if he's here, he will be chiming in momentarily and trying to defend himself, for which there is no defense, by the way. Other than men don't read directions. There's no reason to read directions until you absolutely have to. And that also applies to YouTube, apparently. And I look at it and I go, first place I'm going is YouTube, because I want somebody else that has done this before who can say to me, here are the pitfalls. And by the way, in your kit of stuff, they forgot to put, they didn't put in enough of this screw or that bolt, or, yeah. I want to know that ahead of time. I don't want to have to go there as a last resort personally and have them say to me, after I've been frustrated for hours, my attention span is not that long. I'm not willing to be. Yeah, I am not willing to be frustrated by directions. Not when I can look at something and have something. Okay, I don't know if I told you this or not, but we got a new washer and dryer a few weeks ago. And when the guys came to install the washer and dryer, the dryer's door didn't open the right direction. Now, I don't know about you all, but I've lived long enough to know that I want that dryer and that washer to be as convenient as possible. And that means the door needs to open the right direction. Because I want to get the wet stuff out of the washer, and I want to just open that dryer door, and I want to just put it right. I just want to slide it. I just want to throw it right in the dryer. I don't want to have to walk around the door. I don't want to have to bend down to put it in the dryer. I want the dryer up on the pedestal. There are some things. This is one of them. I want the dryer up. I want the door open in the right way. And they had agreed, the appliance company where we bought it had agreed that that's what they would do. And then when they put the dryer up, they were all pretty much all done installing it. And I said, okay, which way the door is opening the correct way. And I said, because they told me that they would do that. And both of these two guys go, oh, no, it's not opening the right way. They forgot to do that. The guys in the shop forgot to switch the door. So it was opening from the wrong direction. Okay, well, they have one of two choices. They can either fix it then, or they can send somebody to come out, like the next day or whatever, and fix it. But one way or the other, they're going to fix the door. And they decided that it couldn't be that hard, so they would fix it. Well, it turns out that it took almost as long for them to figure out how to switch the door around, as it did for them to install the whole washer and dryer to begin with. Almost as long. And at one point, they were struggling mightily. And I said, have you looked it up on YouTube? No. I'm like, that's the first thing I'd do I'd go to YouTube, if it were me. But, who am I to know? But if it were me, I'd look it up. I'd look it up on YouTube, because I bet you I bet there's something on YouTube. Anyway, do you know what? Before very long, I'm looking for a red here. Before very long, after they'd struggled with it for a good 30-40 minutes, I hear one of them, I'm in the kitchen, the laundry room's right by the kitchen, and I hear one of them say to the other one, look it up on YouTube and see if there's, if you can find it there. Okay? All right. I'm just going to tell you, I rest my case. I rest my case. I do. People, look it up on YouTube. Trust me. It's probably there. There are so many people putting stuff on YouTube now. and rating washers, dryers, and every other kind of appliance, be it large or small. They are putting it on YouTube. People, look it up. It won't take long, is correct. It does take long. Okay, so here we are. So I don't know whether you can tell the difference in these flowers, but I'm having a good time doing it, so there you go. Let me work on the center of this. The first thing I'm going to do is, because this flower is so big, is I'm going to just add a coat of yellow in here. And I'm probably going to have to come back and layer on another coat of the shading color on this flower around the center. I won't add any more to the petals, but I will probably have to add another coat around the center, and we'll do that here in just a second. But I'm going to put this on, this yellow, and let this dry. And then I'll come back and we'll add another color into that center. While we're here, let's just go ahead and add a little bit more color around the center of this. And I'm going to, let's see, what color do I want to use? All right, I'm going to come with this mid vermilion. We did Shiraz the first time. And I'm just going to come around the center. That's all, just in this, where the center is, where the petals touch the center. And on this one, because it's fully behind the other petals, I'm going to just add a little bit more of this color, just so that it goes together. I want the whole thing to have a feeling of being cohesive. And just by virtue of the fact that we have different colors from the papers on here, you're going to get some variation in shading and so forth. Okay, so anyway, back to putting the kettle, the cooking device, together. If you've ever seen on a food cooking channel around Thanksgiving time, they will show you, somebody will invariably show you the virtues of a deep fried turkey. Okay, they will show you how it's so simple and it's so delicious and so forth. It's also incredibly dangerous if you don't know what in the world you're doing. So we will not be deep frying a turkey. I'm just saying. Okay, let's get this going again. And let's add a little bit more of this color into these petals, pulling out from the center. I'm just trying to add a little bit more depth and interest in the color. Okay, so 2 men worked quite a long time. I went in the other room, far, far away, as far away as possible. And after I had done my due diligence of trying to find it on YouTube, and there was a video that was sort of similar, and I don't know if it was of any value to them or not. It really doesn't matter. Okay, the truth is, I got a tremendous amount of satisfaction from being asked, could you look it up on YouTube? I got a lot of satisfaction out of that. But I'm a little twisted. I'm a little twisted. I'm gonna flush him out. He is gonna come out of the woodwork any moment now. Okay, so now we're gonna take this. I'm gonna go to this color, this brown, which is willow, and I'm just going to put this around the edge of this. Because this center is so big, I'm gonna go just little circles all around the edge. And anyway, the moral of the story is the cooker got put together. It functioned. They tried it out. It worked. And as far as you know, it lit and all of that. And so the people were going to be here around 4 in the afternoon for said shrimp boil. and Elton's daughter worked very hard preparing a lot of things, and she got a lot of stuff done, and she did a great job putting everything together and getting it all ready to go together. We're sort of thinking we might do this as an annual event for family and friends, and it really turned out fine. Anyway, about an hour before, or a little bit, maybe an hour and a half before it's time, because it doesn't take all that long to do the actual cooking process, but it takes a heck of a long time to heat the water. And so about an hour and a half before that, I went out and I said, "Have you got the water heating yet?" And the answer was no, not yet. And I'm like, "I think you better get that water on." I'm just saying, I think that's a lot of water, people. It's a lot of water. And I'm like, I think, okay, have you ever watched the proverbial question, how long does it take for a watched pot to boil? It takes a lot longer than if you don't watch it, right? Am I right? Yeah. And of course, we're all gathered around the pot, watching it come to a boil. And every so often you lift the lid to see if it's boiling, and then that, kind of slows down the process. Usually, I don't know if it does or not. It seems like it does. Anyhow, okay. Let me add the shading into these two, and then we're gonna activate this all at once. Anyway, yeah, it was pretty funny. All right, I'm just gonna go with this color right here. Finally, the water boiled. Finally, it's time to start, and people are coming. And so now it's time to start the cooking process, and Elton's daughter had everything ready to go in the pot, and so here's this one. Let's do this color with, let's do this fuchsia. So anyway, and we finally got the cooking process started. The water finally did come to a boil. And the funny part about, okay, there's something lovely about standing back and watching, because you're not responsible. So I was standing back and watching, basically. And so I'm watching one person turn the heat down, and another person, I'm not mentioning names, and another person turning the heat back up. And I'm thinking, well, this is going to be interesting to see how this happens, But we had chips, and we had, baby carrots and dips and stuff like that. We had all that stuff out on the table, so there was plenty of things for people to munch on and that kind of stuff. But I'm thinking, there's something comical about just being able to just sit back and watch. You know what I mean? Just sit back and watch. He is going to come in soon. He's going to come in, he's going to get me. And he's going to come in and have to defend himself, is what it is. He's going to think he has to defend himself. He doesn't have to. The food, it all turned out fine. We had a great time. Everything went really well. But it was, when you're doing something for the first time, you don't know how long something's going to take. You don't know. There's a lot of unknowns. And of course, we didn't do it for just us. We had a lot of other people. We had 20, I think I counted up 21 people that were here. That's a lot of people to learn on. Brave people. 21 brave people that were here, including one dog. Okay. Now, I don't think I've told you that we have lost all of our dogs now. So we went from 3 dogs to, within a month, 6 weeks, I guess, we have lost all of our dogs. So we are dogless now. Well, Elton's other daughter came with Curtis, who is half French Bulldog and half pug. And Curtis came here as a puppy. When Elton's daughter and granddaughter moved in, they got this puppy. A tiny, tiny little puppy when they went and got him. He was the runt of the litter, and an itsy, itsy, tiny, tiny puppy. And so Curtis grew up here. But he grew up here with 2 other dogs. And so when he arrived yesterday, and he's very, he's about so tall, but he, in his mind, he is the size of a Saint Bernard. And so he gets out of the car and he recognizes where he is, of course, and you can just see his chest bulls out, and he's going to come, and he snorts and carries on. He's going to come tell all the dogs that he's here and he's back. And he went all over the place looking, and he couldn't find the dogs. And he couldn't find the dogs, and he couldn't find the dogs. And so his way of dealing with that was to pee on everything. And the poor thing I'm sure he dehydrated himself, peeing on, marking everything. He's neutered, but that doesn't stop him from, peeing on the world. I'm sure he was dehydrated by the time it was over, because he just, he was if he couldn't find them, he was going to make sure that they knew he'd been here. And he seemed quite confused about where were his companions that he used to annoy greatly, and couldn't find them. And then every once in a while, somebody would truly accidentally drop something on the ground, and he could snarf it up faster than you could possibly think about picking it up. And one of those things, I'm sure he got at least one, if not more. One of those things that he snarfed up was a crawdad, cooked, of course. And so the story goes, just a little while ago, Elton's daughter called, and she let us know that Curtis was not feeling well. He wasn't feeling well at all, and he had been sharing with them, shall I say. He'd been sharing with them all the remnants of yesterday. I was so glad he went home. Let me just tell you that. Glad they didn't leave him here for a grand dog visit. Yeah, so I don't think that anybody was terribly amused about his sharing. Yes. Crazy. Okay, let us take a look at this card from a different angle and see if now I haven't put the centers in these flowers, and we'll do a little bit more up in here in just a second, but hopefully you can kind of begin to see that the flowers are having more presence just by adding color into them, more presence than what you have in the background. I'm going to leave the white space back here, although in my heart of hearts I want to get rid of the white space. I'm going to leave the white space if I can make myself do it. Right? Oh yeah, Curtis will be back. He'll totally forget by then. He'll completely forget by next year. Okay, let's put some centers in here, and what is this? Mid vermilion. I don't want that. I want the pumpkin one. Tangerine. That'll be all right. Tangerine's fine. So we're going to put some tangerine in here for the centers. Yeah, so I don't think that his daughter was particularly delighted about Curtis. I'm going to add some yellow. I don't think she was particularly delighted about Curtis's experience of sharing today. but I have to say, in my twisted, my mind's a little twisted, a little sick sometimes. It did make me laugh. Yeah, it did. Only because I wasn't the one having to clean up after him. Yeah. Normally I'm the one having to do cleanup on aisle 6. Yeah, normally that would be me. So when it's somebody else, it does kind of make me laugh. I know. Call me twisted. What can I say? All right. So I'm not going to take the time to add. I'm going to go back here to the other camera. I'm not going to take time to go back and add more. Hey, Starla. Good to see you. Coming in from a migraine nap. Bless your heart. Another thing you can do that I'm going to do right in this area, I'm going to use a darker color. And let's see if we can make this work, okay? Let me see if we can make this work. What's this other color? Thistle or... Let me look at these two. Thistle, what was the other one? Dusky purple. I'm looking to see which one is the darker color. The dusky purple is darker. Let's use it. Okay, we're going to come in here and just in this space right in here, and this is just to see if we like it. If we don't like it, we will not go any further with this. I'm just going to put this little bit of this dusky purple in here. And let's see what this does, okay? This is an experiment. Just to see if we can further pop out the flower petals. Now, is this kind of ridiculous to spend this kind of time on a greeting card? Probably, but everybody's got to do something, so why not do this? So why not do it? So let's see if we can just get this to add a little bit of something extra around these flowers. And again, you have to remember that you got to let this stuff dry, because if you don't let it dry, you can't get the full impact, the full effect of what the color is going to look like. What is the impact and the situation going to be? You don't know until you let it dry. Okay, so we'll see what that does. We'll put it down here too. If we don't like it, we don't have to put it anywhere else. And then we'll let it dry. Now, if you slop some up on the flower petal, then you got to come in there real quickly and blend that out or pick it up. Because if you slop it up on the flower petal, it's going to dry on top of that flower petal. You're not going to like that. At least I don't like it. Okay? All right. So we'll let that just dry there and give a little bit of shadow behind those flower petals. Hi, Brenda. Good to see you. Linda McAllister, rest well, my friend. Rest well. Okay. Let's, I think I'm going to like this. So if you will humor me, I'm going to add a little bit of this around these flowers. I promise I'll do it as quickly as I can, because I have been yammering on for quite a while. Anyway, the shrimp boil went well. People seemed to enjoy it, and I think they would like to be invited back again next year. We only had the teenager that was here didn't like it, but that's okay. It's not, although she's pretty adventurous with food, she did not like what we had. And I wasn't real surprised at that, and that's okay. You know, she came, she tried, and she said, and she did not say anything ugly about the food at all. I asked her if she liked it, and she said no. And I thought, fair enough, that's okay. But she did like the dessert, and she was very pleasant, and we had a good time, and she blends well with her surroundings, with the people that were here, and so that was fun. And she got to see some of her relatives that she hadn't seen for a while, and so that was good. But it didn't surprise me that she didn't like it. You know, she reminds me, not truly, she reminds me a little bit of Mikey from the Life cereal commercials, you know, just a little bit. She's much better and much more adventurous, and much, her taste and everything is much better than Mikey. But anytime she says, no, I don't like that, it just goes through my head, yeah, here's Mikey, the female version of Mikey. And that's not true. That's not fair to her. Because she really did. She came, you know? She came and she had a good time, I think. And dessert must have been worth it, because she liked the dessert. And Elton's sheet cakes, the ones we talked about on the last stream, were a big hit. And also his blackberry ice cream. He had picked the blackberries. They're wild blackberries, so he picked the blackberries and he made the blackberry ice cream. And one of the people that was here for the shrimp boil said that was the best ice cream she'd ever tasted. And I thought, well, that's a great compliment, you know? Everybody wants to, you know, everybody wants to make something that somebody thinks is the best thing, version of whatever that was that they'd ever tasted, right? So, anyway, it took a while to clean all that stuff up, and that's a big old pot to clean, let me just tell you that. I didn't have to clean it beforehand, and I didn't have to clean it afterwards. I'll just figure out where to put it. I'll just figure out where to put it, that's all. Texas sheet cake. It was Texas sheet cake. He made 4 of them. We made a dent in one and then sent the rest of it home with his daughter and granddaughter. Because we don't need to have that hanging around here, because you know how you do with Girl Scout cookies. If any of you eat Girl Scout cookies, I try not to ever have them in the house. But you know how you do with Girl Scout cookies, where if there's a row, this used to be with Thin Mints, I don't know how they are now, but they used to be in a row. And so if you started eating one, you're going to only eat 2, you know, maybe 3, but never more than 4. But that row, you know, it's just begging to be evened up. It just begs for it, doesn't it? So you gotta eat just a little bit more to even up that row of cookies. And the next thing you know, you've eaten half a box or whatever. Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. No self-control. No self-control. When I was a leader with Weight Watchers, Girl Scout Cookie Week or time where they were coming around selling Girl Scout, we had whole scenarios for people with ways to deal with Girl Scout cookies when the Girl Scouts would get, because they used to only come to your house, And now they're in the grocery stores. They're at the local Walmart. You know, they set up the thing right at the door. Right at the door. So, you know, they're going to get you coming and going. And if you're not super strong, you are going to give in. You are going to cave and you are going to buy some of the. And you can buy them right there and take them home. You don't even have to wait. Oh, I'm telling you, people trying to control food issues. Girl Scout cookies are not good. It's not good for you to have to deal with that, because most of us who have had weight issues or food issues, we end up having to, traps. It's a trap, people. It's a real trap for some of us, yeah. Because then you open the sleeve or you open the package of Girl Scout cookies and they seem so innocent. You know, they're thin, they're little. So it shouldn't be that bad for you. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Because I couldn't resist, I had to put a little bit more of this shading color around the rest of these flowers. So I now have the shading color in very lightly. I have put it very lightly around the flowers. And I'm now going to activate that shading, and then we'll work on the flowers just a little bit more. We'll work on the centers and so forth. I'm just kind of spreading out some of this color just a little bit more. Even though I'm tinting the white space just a hair. It's just taking the brilliant white off of it just a little bit. Okay, so although it's upside down for you, it makes it easier for me to soften out this color, blend it out just a little bit. So what else can I tell you? Today we had shrimp left over from the shrimp boil. Any of you that are vegetarians, this is not a good stream for you to be watching. I'm sorry about that. Oh, anyway, so we had shrimp left over. Not a lot, but we had enough that we could have surf and turf for late lunch, early dinner tonight. So Elton grilled steaks. I think Elton and his daughter grilled steaks. I'm not really sure. I wasn't out there. I was in the kitchen. And I cooked some smashed potatoes, the little tiny potatoes. Don't you hate it when your watch bosses you around? Time to stand up. Time to stand up. 2 sleeves. I just saw that, Starla. I know. Anyway, so we decided we'd have surf and turf. And so the 2 of them grilled steaks. I did smashed potatoes, so I boiled these little potatoes until they were soft enough. You don't want them falling apart, but you got to have them soft enough that you actually can smash them. It's a fine line between not cooked enough and cooked too much. And then you get the potatoes out and then you smash them with the bottom of a pot or a spatula or something, and then brown them in a heavy skillet. So I used an iron skillet, browned them in that, and they were good. And asparagus and corn on the cob that he did on the grill. So it was a mighty fine dinner, and then we had steak and leftover shrimp that I warmed up real slowly in a pan, a skillet with a little bit of broth, and just warmed them up so they were not overcooked, but just warmed up so that they went well with the rest of the meal. So we had a great dinner. That was good. And then I came in here. I didn't even have to do the dishes tonight because I came in here to talk to you fine folks and tell you stories on Elton, because that's, and he even told me about Curtis. He said, I thought you might want to know that before the stream, because he knows how I do. I tell stories from my real life. And I said, yep, I wanted to know that. Okay, we're just about done here, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to add to the centers of the flowers, and then we're going to call it done. I mean, it's taken I almost said a bad word. It's taken a long time to do this card, but I don't know about you, but I enjoy doing stuff like this. And then if I need to, I actually could color copy this, and I could make more of these cards by taking this color copy, and I could just take the color copies and cut them out and use them. I could use them on other cards. Okay. So let's go back this direction. Hopefully you can see that. See the shading a little bit. Pops those flowers forward. Alright, the flowers should be done. I could always add more shading and more stuff. I could play with this for a long time, but you know what? Who's got time for that? No, nobody's got time for that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use a thin pointed pen, and I'm going to put in a few indicators on the petals. And I am purposefully flicking the pen so that I don't get this. I get a feathery tip out at the end of that, the end of the line. So just flicking it. But they need to come from the center out. Okay, but not all the way to the tip of the petal. All right, let's do that. That gives more direction to your petals and a little bit more visual texture. So just flick it. Be careful that the lines do not all line up like little soldiers. They need to vary in length. And let me come in a little tighter so you can see a little bit better. Whoop, a little too long. Oh well. Sometimes you just have to say, yeah, that's the work of the crazy artist. I'll show you how to fix that here in a second. First thing I'm going to do is just get some lines in. Varying lengths, varying textures. No, you need to know how long it takes for your ink to dry. So you know whether you can rest your hand in a petal, or if you've got to be real careful with that. All right, let me do the rest of these real quick and then we'll finish this up. I won't put a sentiment on this one tonight because I've kept you long enough tonight on a holiday evening. Thank you for sharing with me and hanging out here. Any of you that are VIP members of How to Get Creative, we will have a class on Saturday afternoon. Information will be coming in your email. Okay, we got 2 more flowers here, and then we'll finish the centers up. One more flower. Have I made any of you sick yet? Not trying to, but this is one of those things you got to have it in the right position for your hand, because if you don't, you're gonna get those little lines too thick or going the wrong direction. Okay, now to fix up any screw ups, then let's go to a paint pen. That'll be easier for you to see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here, and to start with, I'm going to put some of these little dots kind of straddling the petal. Don't get too heavy-handed with this. Put some of these dots which sort of suggest pollen, and I just, because this is all made up, I just kind of take each flower and treat it individually. So it's not realistic, and we don't have all these little suggestions of pollen dots accurately placed. It's okay. We're making it up as we go. So they're heavier on basically one half, and further away from the center on the opposite half. All right, on this one, we're going to go, we'll let this start being, and because this is bigger, we can get away with more pollen dots. So I'm just kind of touching them. Sometimes if you touch not so hard, you get a smaller dot, but you don't want them too much lined up and too much a little like a stripe. You want to be careful that you don't get that. It's okay to throw a couple up into the center and some down on here, and we'll add a little bit more on the petal here in a second. The ones behind, they're more on the petals and less on the center. It helps give it a little bit more of a dimensional feel or roundness to the center. Same thing here. This is smaller, so you got to be careful. Not too many back here. This is a really small little center. And then we've got this one. So this one, I'm just going to sprinkle those dots kind of away from the center, and just a couple of them touching the center, but most of them away from the center. This one, and these are paint pen dots. I'm using a Posca pen, so I'm going to have to be careful that I don't lay my hand in those wet dots. They will dry. It's acrylic paint. They will dry and be permanent, but until they are dry, you can spread the love and you can smear things, and you don't want to do that. Okay, so I'm going to come back up here to the top. By now these are dry. So we've got the centers established, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some random dots again, try to be very, I can't explain this enough. Try to be really careful that you don't have things lining up like little soldiers. You want just have some random. They look so much better if they're random. And if you end up with one being a problem child, like this one right here, we will fix that. And at least these little pollen dot things that we're doing, which is like the pollen is falling off, or the bee or the butterfly or somebody has carried that pollen with them and they have sprinkled it off of their little antenna or their legs or whatever, and they've sprinkled it around on the petals. And that's what we're trying to suggest. Okay, same thing here. So we're gonna just let some of those kind of sprinkle down the petal. Don't get too carried away. And different weights of dots if you can. Some fatter, some thinner. And I'm just gonna add a few, not too many. Okay, not too many. And by doing this, what it does is helps to distract your eye from the things where you might have messed up. Okay. All right. And then come down here. We'll do the same thing. We'll see if I can. Be careful because I just depressed the barrel of the pen, so you got to be careful that you don't touch very hard or you're going to get an explosion of ink. And a few down here. But everything that you do to these little, and these are made up flowers, these aren't real. There's nothing real about these little flowers. They're all fantasy, made up. Everything about them is made up. We found the flowers in the ink that came from the bleeding tissue paper. Okay? All right. So we have that. And then to further gild the lily, as it were, I like to go to white and then gold. So this is also a white Posca pen. All right, this one doesn't look like it's going to work for me. Let me let's try this one. This is a fatter one, so this could be, all right. This is a fatter Posca, so we're going to have to be a little more careful. Find a spot to, if you don't hold your card down on something like this, it's going to bounce, it's going to rebound up, and it's going to paint itself. So you want to add a few little white. This is a fatter tip, so be real careful that you don't push too hard. Don't touch too hard. Oop, we missed. Totally missed a couple dots in here. We need, okay, gotta have some there too. So let me, so fewer white ones than the black. Down here, because this is the biggest flower, we can add a few more because this is our big focal point. But don't get carried away, or you're going to look like you've given it chickenpox or measles or something. So don't get too carried away. When you do things like this, make sure that you sign your cards. You can sign it on the back. I tend to sign them on the front. That's probably because I'm, oh, who knows, vanity, I don't know. I just tend to like to incorporate my signature into the whatever the art is. I'm not aiming for the black dots. In fact, I'm aiming not to get on the black dots that I put in before. Okay, so we have some black and some white, and this is maybe looking a little speckly to you as I'm looking in the camera, but we'll look at it again here in a second. And then I have some gold, and to further gild the lily, we're going to touch in a few little gold dots, because you really can't have too much sparkle. Fewer gold than white, fewer white than black, okay? But this kind of gives you some sunshine. Again, hold your card, support it with your finger, because if you don't, it's going to rebound and it's going to come up and smack the tip of your pen, and it's going to put paint places that you don't want paint to go. Okay. All right, so let's look at it here. Just trying to get it so you can see. There you go. You can see the whole thing there now. Okay? So what we did, again, just to review in case you weren't here, what we did on this last week is I took bleeding tissue paper, I painted this card, which is watercolor paper, painted it with water, took pieces, big squares of those colors, yellow, orange, fuchsia, red, purple, I think were the colors, and scrunched them up, pushed them into the wet surface of the watercolor paper, so it was scrunched up paper, and smashed it into that water, it was really wet, and then let those colors from that tissue paper bleed into the card, into the water. Once it was dry, those pieces came off. You see all the shapes that the paper left, and then after that I went through and I found the flowers. I saw those shapes in the thing that was there, whatever was there. I found those flowers, so they're fantasy flowers, and then I further enhanced those using Inktense pencils. I outlined them first of all with a black permanent pen, and then went back in with Inktense pencils to add shading and the centers. Then we used a black pen, a thin black pen, which was this one, which is the Uniball Vision Elite pen, to do the initial lines in the petals, because that just gives dimension and shape to your petals. And then some dots with the black and white Posca pen, and then a few little gold dots just to make it kind of sparkly. And then I put in a background using a dark purple, just right around the petals, and with the purple ink tints to further pop the flowers out. Okay? So that is how that came into being. So another angle from another angle, you'll see it there. Okay? That's what we did. So if you have ink tints, pencils, get them out, use them, and have a good time. If you don't want to use ink tints pencils, you could use watercolor pencils or whatever else you want to use. Okay? Thanks for being here, everybody. I will see you, and thank you to everybody who is watching, who watched the recordings. I appreciate you. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I will be back Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern. I will see you then. Until then, remember to get creative today, because you know what? It's easy, and I'll see you before you know it. Do something nice for somebody else, by the way. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Rhonda, for being moderator tonight. Thank you to each and every one of you. Have a great rest of your day, your evening, your week, your weekend, whenever you're watching, and I'll see you before you know it. Bye for now.